now I finally got around to reading it. Okay, you guys actually don't care. The whole premise of the book is a little bit weird. I actually read something that was on my TBR. I don't think about them very frequently, so now I can put these books back. Now, I had such high hopes going into this book. Falling in love with Italy, and she's falling in love with a guy. And then I was like, you know what? I should search on Prime Reading. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I literally love these videos. Every time the end of the month is nearing, I am so excited to film these videos. I'm about to talk about all of the books that I read in May, and there's actually not a lot this time. Honestly, all the years before, I normally go into a book slump around this time. The weather starts getting warmer, I just want to be outside. I'm not cooped up inside all day anymore, so I'm not really reading as often. So I did go through a little bit of a book slump probably at the beginning of this month, and then the rest of May was kind of just vibing. I was just reading books and trying to go quick because I knew that I had a reading wrap up to film. So today we have 5 books to talk about, and I'm going to go through them all, explain a little bit about each book, explain my thoughts, my feelings. Oh my god, there's literally a yellow fly around here. Oh my god, I'm going to have a panic attack. Haha. Did I get him? I think we should start off on a high note and talk about my 5-star read of this month, because honestly this entire year I haven't really been doing too great with 5-star reads. I mean, I've rated things 5 stars, but they're like in the lower 5-star category. I don't know, I feel like I've just been very lenient on my ratings this year, and I want to get really down to business and stop doing that. So this month I promised myself that like I don't have to have a 5-star, and yet I still found a 5-star read. 5-star in question is none other than Renegades by Marissa Meyer. It took me forever to actually want to read this book because this is kind of sci-fi-ish in a way. It is a fantasy book, but it kind of gives sci-fi, so I was like, I don't know if I like that. I've never read a book like that before, but I can honestly say that I loved it so much. I loved the characters in this book. I loved just the way that like the past intertwined with the present, and it's going to intertwine with the future. I already know it. So this is the first book in a 3-part series, I believe. Don't quote me on that one. But the first book is Renegades, and I gave it a 5 stars. I literally loved this book so much. Something about both of the main characters. This book is dual POV, and the girl is basically a supervillain. The guy is a superhero, and then she decides to go undercover and work with the superheroes so she can like kind of understand them a little bit more to try to basically take them down. That's basically like the whole premise of the book. I think what I liked about this book so much is that both of the characters had like reasons why they felt the way that they did about certain views, and I was like, okay, I understand where you're coming from completely. Normally when I read a book there's always a few characters that I dislike, but I honestly didn't dislike any of the characters in this book. Half of this book I listened to on audiobook, and then like the other half I read, and I think that helped me a lot to understand a lot of the things, because something about me is like if you give me a hardcover big book, like I'm never gonna get through it. I'm gonna complain about holding the book, I'm gonna complain about flipping the page, I'm gonna complain about how huge and heavy it is. Like I'm just gonna complain about every little thing. So I was like, I need to listen to this instead of read it, because I don't like hardcovers. I don't like hardcovers. Sue me, I just don't like hardcovers, okay? But this did end up being 5 stars because majority of the time I was listening to the book instead of like actually reading it. Next book I actually read on Kindle, and it's called One Italian Summer by Rebecca Sturl. I think I'm saying that right. Okay, you guys actually don't care. I read One Italian Summer. I gave it a solid 3 stars, like no higher, no lower. Like it literally did not need a 0.1 more star than it was given. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it while I read it. Some of the pages were like skimmed through because I was just like, I just don't care. Obviously it's called One Italian Summer, so it's taking place in Italy. This girl has just lost her mom, and she ends up going on a trip that her and her mom were supposed to go on. She's kind of learning things about her mom's past, and she's falling in love with Italy, and she's falling in love with a guy, but it's also like she was married before then. She kind of got divorced before she left because the grief was just too much and it was taking a strain on her relationship. So she ended up leaving, going to Italy. The whole premise of the book is a little bit weird, but she sees her mother from the time period that her mom was in Italy. This whole trip was like her and her mom were going to go to Italy so that her mom could show her a lot of the things from her mom's past of being in Italy. So when this girl actually goes to Italy, she sees her mom, but like the younger self of her mom, and she's basically becoming friends with her younger self. she's basically becoming friends with like her mom's younger self, and it's like a whole thing of like, oh, this is what my mom was doing before she had me and before these things happened in her life that kind of shaped who she needed to be instead of like, this is who she wants to be. I don't know, the book was good, but I felt like it focused a lot more on the Italian scenery and like explaining in depth and in detail about the food there, the nature there, the like streets. Like, I didn't care about that. I cared more about this girl dealing with the grief of losing her mother. And I feel like when it got to the parts where it was focused on the grief and the girl getting over it, that was very like hard hitting for me. But then we would get to another point where you're explaining the Italian scenery for like 2 pages and I just don't really care that much. It was a good read. It was a solid 3 stars. That's literally all I'm going to say about it because I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. And I liked the ending, but it was like trekking to get to the ending. Okay, next book I actually have with me. It's called The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson. I had this on my TBR. So please give me a round of applause, because I actually read something that was on my TBR. I feel like every month that goes by is like, oh, is Bryn actually gonna read something on her TBR this time? And the answer is always gonna be no. I always do my TBR videos and then I fully forget what I put on the TBR and I just start mood reading for the month instead of like reading the books that I plan to read. So it's so difficult for me to continuously film these TBR videos when it's like, girl, you know you're not gonna read them anyway. But this time I kept my word and I read The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson. I really don't know how to feel about this book. We'll keep it at a solid 3 stars. I liked this book. This was a like thriller mystery book. Basically the premise of this book is a little bit weird, I feel. This book is dual POVs between this girl named Joan and this guy named Henry Kimball. Basically, Henry had something happen in his life that kind of put him on the trajectory to be a private investigator. He used to be a teacher and then something traumatic happened in the classroom that forced him to not be a teacher anymore, so he became a private investigator. And then Joan had something happen before, which is basically the story of how Joan met her husband, but it's like also something that was tragic that happened. So you're kind of following these 2 POVs, which is like, oh, something tragic happens in both of these people's lives, but like these people are intertwined now because Henry used to be Joan's teacher in school, and also Joan comes to Henry because she thinks that her husband is cheating and she needs him to be the private investigator to figure out what's going on. And Joan's POV happens in the past and Henry's POV happens in like the present timeline. So it's a little bit more difficult to follow, which is also why I gave it a 3 stars. It took forever for them to really intertwine together. I was like, why does this matter so much? And then the end, I was like, oh, this is why it matters. And to be completely fair, I like when books do that. I like when like thriller mystery books do that, but it's like, I also want to be interested. I don't want to be like, oh, this is so boring throughout the whole book and then you get to the end and you're interested. No. I want to be interested through the whole book. When I picked up this book, I was thinking that it was a lot different than what it was. And I'll just leave it at that. I feel like if I went into this book blind, it would have been better. Okay, the next 2 books were read on Kindle also, but we'll go really quick through them because they really don't deserve the time of day, if I'm being honest. Like, they were just short, simple, like, easy reads. The next book I read is The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. Now, I had such high hopes going into this book because I love Christina Lauren. I literally love their writing so much. It's insane. I resonated so much. Hold on. I'll pull out the books for you guys. I resonated so much with Love and Other Words by these authors, and I resonated with The Unhoneymooners. Both of these were actually 5-star reads at one point. This is still a 5-star, but I think that like my rating for this one is probably gonna be a 4 now. Anyways, that's not the point. I don't know, I just loved their writing so much and I loved every other book that I read by them, so I had such high hopes for this one, but I honestly have to give The Honey Don't List a 2 stars. I don't think that I liked either of the characters, and I think that's where this hatred is coming from. Normally, a book is not good for me if I don't like the characters. I have to at least resonate and appreciate one of the characters that is there, and I didn't like a singular character this time. I just feel like it didn't hit as hard as the other Christina Lauren books I've read. That's how I feel about The Honey Don't List. Now I can put these books back where they rightfully belong. I think the next book I read was only like 50 pages. It was so short. It's called The Worst Wingman Ever. It was by Abby Jimenez. I found it because one night I was searching for books to read and I was on Libby trying to like pick out books to read. And then I was like, you know what? I should search on Prime Reading because I always forget that like paying for Prime gives me Prime Reading. Even if like some of the books on there are not so great, it's like let me just try it out. So I found The Worst Wingman Ever through that, and the book was really good. It was very short, such a simple read. I read it in literally like 20 minutes and then it was over. I think I have to give it like a solid 4 stars. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for listening to me talk about books. For you guys to take the time out of your day to listen to me rant about books and about my feelings and thoughts about things that you probably don't even care about that much, I really appreciate it. There are so many vlogs coming soon, so please be patient with me. I've been going through it mentally and physically, so I'm really trying to like get videos out, but also not overwork myself and not get into a rut, so I'm like trying my best. There will be some new vlogs out soon. I've been filming a lot, just not editing a lot, so I'll see you guys super soon. I love you so much. Thank you for listening.